going on, YouTube? This is Peanut DOD, and you know I can't leave anything alone, so I'm gonna do another video. How about we change the color on the motorcycle again? Okay, so if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I PlastiDip my bike once. I wanted to do a color change, and a temporary one. I love the blue that my bike is, but every once in a while I want to change it up a little bit. So at first I was gonna wrap it, and I learned quickly that I cannot wrap. It's a skill that I don't have, and I'm pretty good at learning how to do anything, but it just wasn't gonna happen. So I know I can paint. I've painted before, so I decided to go with PlastiDip, and they have a billion different colors. Like actually 1 billion. No, they don't. So they have a bunch of different colors, so I picked one. I actually like the new paint jobs that the 2020 R6s have, but I didn't like the colors they came in, so I decided to do my own spin on it. And watch the other video, you'll see how that turned out. Well, then they came out with a new color right after I did it that was called 2Z Indigo Pearl, and I decided I like that color. I'm gonna try that one out. So this video is gonna cover basically the differences between dipping a car and dipping a motorcycle in your garage. Because not all of us have fancy paint booths like Fonzie does. Actually, almost none of us. So chances are, if you're watching this, you're dipping, or if you're watching this to learn how to dip, for one, you shouldn't. I mean, definitely watch the video. You'll learn some things. But as far as technique and how you're going to spray it, how you're going to lay the product down, watch Fonzie's videos on the DYC channel. He's much better at it. He's the one that developed all this shit, and he's going to show you how to do it right. But as far as dipping motorcycles, I think he's done like a couple pieces, but I don't know if he's ever done an actual, like the full thing. And the process is a lot different, and so that's pretty much what I'm going to cover in this video. Fonzie has a nice fancy spray booth in his facility that he can use for dipping cars and whatever he wants to do. That's great, but most people don't have that in their garage. What I have is some paper or plastic to cover the floor so I don't just paint my floor. And I have a couple sawhorses and some 1x4s that I use to set my pieces on. That turned out to be great. So the number one thing you need is space. So if you watched my other video, you saw that I did it in, I dipped my bike in the garage of my RV. That is not enough space. Don't do that. If I ever decide I want to dip my car again while I'm in my RV, I'm gonna do like one piece at a time. There's not enough room in there. That was ridiculous. When you're gonna spray in your garage, the number one thing to do is prep. So before you just decide, okay, I'm gonna spray today, decide I'm gonna spray tomorrow, and prep your garage. Sweep it out, spray it out, sweep it out twice. Like I swept mine, and I got it all nice and looking good, and I moved some things around, and then I swept it again, and I probably swept out just as much material as I did the first time. So make sure your garage is nice and clean, because the sprayer puts out a ton of air, and so you don't want particles and shit blowing around in your garage. Now, part of the prep process, after you've got your garage nice and swept, use plastic to cover the floor, or paper. I used plastic this time, I used paper last time. Honestly, the plastic took up a little less room in the trash can, so I'll probably use plastic again. You just want something covering the floor so there's not a ton of overspray, but you don't want it falling on the ground and painting the garage floor. Give yourself plenty of room to work. So if you can spread your pieces out so there's a lot of room around each piece, do that. This time I spread them out pretty good, but it still wasn't enough. I got some runs because of how close together they were. I'm probably going to respray those pieces. Take your time with the prep. Prep is key. And when you're going to do it, don't try and do it on the bike. I looked at it, I considered doing it for a minute. I was like, oh, let's try it and spray the pieces still on the bike. Nah, take them off, it's easier. Take the bike apart and clean each piece individually. I didn't wash my bike as a bike. I took all the pieces off and I cleaned them individually. Take off all the bushings and all the little pieces so you just have plastic. There's a lot of little clips and things. Look at where you're gonna paint. If there's a clip or a bushing in an area you're gonna paint, take it off. Or like the Yamaha emblems on the side of my tank, I just taped those off. I didn't remove them. They're stuck on with double-sided tape. I could have taken them off and replaced the tape, but I found it easier to just tape them off, especially with PlastiDip. If you get a little overspray on them, you can actually just peel it off. So as far as spreading the pieces out, like I said, I got a couple sawhorses and some, I think they're 10-foot 2x8 or 1x4s 2x8s. Jesus, big ass board. Now I got some 1x4s and the little paint triangles that kind of stick together. I think I showed them on the last video, but they hold the pieces up off of the wood so it doesn't get like painted to it. And I also had a folding table that I used in my garage. I just covered that with plastic and taped around the legs so the plastic wasn't blowing up. And I used that to spread out some pieces. I have some paint cups that I used to stand them up on. Just know that anything you stand your pieces up on, like used to set them up off the deck, is going to get painted. I don't take the tank off of my bike. What I actually do is, I know I'm going to be covering my bike with plastic anyways because I don't want to spray it. So I actually drape it with a big sheet of plastic, and then I cut a hole that goes right across the tank. And then I kind of stretch that hole in front of and behind the tank. So only the tank is exposed and the rest of the bike is covered in plastic. And that seems to work pretty good. I did that last time I dipped it, and I did it this time, and it worked great. So the whole bike is taped off, or not taped off, but draped with plastic, and just your tank is sticking out of it. I really like it. And that's how I suggest you do it. Do it however you want, but that's what I did, and it worked really well. And the airbox cover, the front half, I took that off. The last time I did this, I kind of hung the pieces up in my garage in the RV, and as soon as I turned on that sprayer, they were blowing all over the place like wind chimes. So this time, the tail pieces are really light. They're just thin plastic, and they're not very big. So they're kind of like a two-piece construction. The painted side is the outside that you see, and then the mount side is all just the black plastic like here. So what I did was tape them off. I tape off the black side and just leave the paint exposed. But the tabs where it mounts to the bike, I use those to tape to the 1x4s. So those pieces were taped down so I could spray all over them, and they weren't blowing away. They were just taped to the wood. And I also put a piece of tape across the legs of the little triangle prongs that I sit my pieces up on. So that way they didn't blow around either. They were taped down, they were taped in place, and I could lift the pieces up to like look at the underside or test them out, see if they were dry or move them around. And the mounts didn't move on the wood. They just stayed right in place because they were taped. I found that very, very helpful. Do not use your dip your car paddle, the mixing paddle that it comes with. Don't use that on regular latex paint and then put that in your dip. Dip's a solvent. I should have fucking known better. I did it. I'm a dumbass. So it's a very good thing that I use filters. Always, always, always use filters when you're pouring your stuff into the little dip your car hopper cups. And I don't know what kind of wizardry and fucking magic that Fonzie uses to pour his stuff into those cups, but I tried it when I did my daughter's car, and I spilled paint or PlastiDip everywhere. I've got a big black streak going down the front of my freezer in my garage. Go to Home Depot and get the 1 gallon spout lids. They're like a rubbery fold up spout lid. Get those. I got them from I love those things. I have one for each color of paint I have in my garage. Those things are the greatest. Do not try and pour like fucking Fonzie. I don't know what he does. There's some magic going on there. Don't try it. Just swallow your pride and get those lids. Makes it much easier. So first of all, when you go to spray on a motorcycle, I find it helpful to dial the fan down. So Fonzie covers this in a how to spray in one of his videos on learning how to spray and how to use the sprayer. So he likes to keep his fan about, I think he said 6 to 8 inches. I dial it down to more like 4 to 6 inches. I like a narrower beam because I'm spraying smaller parts, and I like to kind of control where the product's going. And you want to move really. I move pretty fast, so I want it sprayed down tighter. But as far as spraying the product on the motorcycle pieces, make sure you get around the edges. When you get to the edge of a piece, make sure you spray underneath so it covers the whole edge. It's not as big of an issue with spraying a car, because you're pretty much spraying a huge flat surface. So when you get to the edge of a door, it kind of goes around the edge, and that's all you see. That's all you need on a car. On a motorcycle, see how these edges are round? You can see on both sides. I use black as a base color, and so then when I spray just the purple on the top, or the Tuesday, it looks right. Just come up with a plan before you just start spraying. Don't jump right into it and say, all right, let's just spray everything and see what happens. You're gonna be disappointed with your results. If you come up with a plan and kind of look at your pieces and plan out how they go on the bike and what it's gonna look like, you'll be much happier. As far as the actual spray technique, I suggest you watch Fonzie's videos. Fonzie's going to teach you how to spray much better than I can. I'm just trying to point out the few little differences between motorcycles and cars when it comes to spraying PlastiDip. Traffic's getting back to normal in Atlanta. If you watch my video on riding a motorcycle during the outbreak, or during the apocalypse, I rode all the way around 285 in an hour, not hauling ass, just cruising. In fact, going most of the time under the flow of traffic. I don't know if I could do that right now. There seems to be a little more traffic going on. Last time I did this, I sprayed the base in cans. I used about 6 cans of gunmetal gray to spray the base color, and then used a quart of each color to spray over it. I used a quart of HKS purple and a quart of Mardi Gras color shift pearl. This time I used gallons, and I sprayed the base in black. I used about a half a gallon, and then I sprayed about a half a gallon of the 2Z Indigo. I think it was 1 extra coat. I could have gotten away with 2 coats. I did 3 at least. I probably could have gone 1 last coat and been fine, but I'd already mixed it, so I figured I'd use at least half of it. So I've got about a half a gallon left. What is the appeal of those Mercedes that's in front of me, that G wagon? I think they're ugly. They're way overpriced. That's just my opinion. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment down below either way. If this is your first time seeing one of my videos, leave a comment. Tell me how you found it. If it's not your first time watching my videos, then you know to leave a damn comment. Say hi. Let me know who you are.